Try to see it my way. Do I have to keep on talking till I can go on? While you see
Conflict is natural. Conflict is an opportunity. Conflict creates change, which creates improvement.
we can work it out. Think of what you're saying. You can get it wrong and still you think that it's right.
Hey, you remember that movie, The War of the Roses? It was one of the meanest, nastiest divorces ever put on film. I mean, these guys were brutal. Well, divorce can be really hard, but we have here a conflict coach who says you can avoid divorce hell and the agony of a court battle. Please welcome mediator Barb North. Hey, Barb, how are you?
Hi, good. I'm good. Hi,
Now, I wanted to ask a question. You know, why should people who are going through a divorce, why should they use a mediator instead of an attorney?
Well, you know, Danny gave the example of the War of the Roses, and you have a choice of either being civil or having a civil war, and nobody wins a war. So if you go to mediation, it's not about going to an attorney or not going to an attorney. It's about coming up with an agreement together. And if you go to mediation, you have a chance of sitting down and being civil and coming up with an agreement together.
Well, no matter what's at stake, I mean, sometimes there's a lot of money involved, there's children involved. Does that complicate things?
It doesn't. If you sit down in mediation and you do it step by step, and the mediator will hear each side and hear what everybody needs, and then you just go through it bit by bit.
I have a million questions, but let me introduce somebody. Joining us is a couple who used a mediator in their divorce instead of going to court. Please welcome Jay and Allison. Okay. Now, I can only assume that things were more friendly in your divorce by the fact that you're willing to be on stage together. What made you use a mediator instead of a lawyer and fight it out in court?
Well, this was actually my second divorce, and my first
So you're getting good
one.
at this.
I am becoming a true professional.
Right.
Working out some of those
Third
bugs.
time's the charm.
I like divorce so much I did it twice. But my first divorce was very, very bitter and nasty. The attorneys added to it as far as I personally feel. And when Allison asked me for the divorce, I absolutely did not want to go through that again.
Right. It seems to me like the only big winners in a divorce are the lawyers.
That's absolutely true.
Very
That's
much.
absolutely right, yes.
That's horrifying to me.
And one of the things that happens is if you can sit down before you're killing each other, right?
Right.
You came in early before they were killing each other. You've got a confidential, safe environment where you can work things out and find out what you want instead of find out what the attorneys want.
But how often does that happen? Because I'm not about to divorce somebody I still like. You know, I'm divorcing the person for a reason.
Well, that's absolutely true. You're living together. You've got these conflicts.
Something bad happened, right?
But there's still a relationship. And what mediation does is help preserve what's there.
What's left, right?
Right.
The
Because-
carcass that is your marriage.
Right.
Because the War of the Roses happens after you decide on a divorce.
Well, you know, it seems like the mediation process almost involves a little psychology, almost. Do you find that it kind of blends into that when you're
To
dealing
some degree, a mediator really, you know, has to keep everything on focus and help communicate. They're hearing things, sometimes maybe you're hearing things from each other that you never heard before.
Right, sure.
Because you're listening in that process.
Okay.
And when there's kids involved,
Right, and that's gotta
then
be
you
the
really
toughest.
want to preserve the relationship.
Well, you had a great... you
I have
told
a
a great
friend of
story.
mine, George Hamilton, famous actor, the guy with the really good tan. He's getting a divorce and he's got millions and millions of dollars, and this is going to cost probably hundreds of thousands, if not millions, in legal fees. And he said to his wife, I'll give you an extra $10,000 if you'll sit down with me with a pencil and paper. We'll write down everything we have. We'll split it in half. His divorce for a multi-million-dollar settlement was like $500.
And that's
because they
exactly,
work it out
yeah,
like ladies and
that's
gentlemen.
right. That's what's happening in mediation. That's exactly what's taking
Allison, do you
place.
mind, you only married a couple of years. Why all of a sudden the divorce?
Well, I was just young. I made some choices that weren't right for me. And
Just early in life?
yeah.
How do you tell the guy that you want to have the divorce? I mean, do you like cut it out in the toast in the morning or something?
It's not easy.
Not bad.
It's not.
You spell it out in late sausages? I'm not happy.
It was more spur of the moment. If you think about it too much, it's horrible. You don't want to
But
ever
you
have
would
to
say,
tell
because you have
anybody
been
that.
through the nasty version with the lawyers, and I've seen them, my parents were divorced, and I've seen that done. How much better was mediation for you, Jay?
Oh, fantastic. You know, what really made it easy was we both looked at it that our children come first.
Right.
And that going through the divorce, we wanted our children to know that it had nothing to do with them, that we still love them the same as we always have, that it's still equal. We didn't want to get into this you know, the kids feel like, well, they're with mommy 90% of the time and they only see daddy occasionally. We both want to be totally involved in their lives.
And that's, you know, the kids, that's one of the hardest issues that you're dealing with. And what happens a lot of times when you have lawyers doing battle is you start forgetting that the kids are really people.
Right.
What I do in a mediation when there are kids involved, I ask the couple to bring pictures of their kids. I don't know if that was your
that's
experience.
very
Yeah. Kind of keep them focused. Now, is that the hardest issue that you've had to deal with? The fact that they are kids, or
Not necessarily, because sometimes, you know, they both love the kids and they really want to do what's good for
That is a
them.
very happy note. When we come back, how to decide whether you should use a mediator or fight it out in court. Coming right back. Stay with us.
Because really, when you're in a conflict, you have 4 choices. You can choose to live with it, which doesn't seem to be working out for you on this one. You can leave the situation. You said you don't even want to be your neighbor anymore. Maybe that's a choice. You can talk with someone face to face, or you can turn it over to another decision-making party, like a judge. You said you've tried yelling at her and asking your kids to talk to her kids. How about talking face to face? That's what we're talking about really on this show. We're talking about what we'll call the sweet zone. Because if you can't live with it, if you don't want to leave or move, you mentioned suing, that's another choice, but if you can talk face to face, sometimes it helps to have a third party, a facilitator, a neutral third party. You may be able to resolve some of the issues here.
We're back with divorce mediator Barb North and divorce couple Jay and Allison. Maybe ask you, as the mediator, who should go to court?
Well, there are times when mediation isn't right. If you absolutely cannot be in the same room together, don't go to mediation. If you can't be in the same room together. If there's a fear of physical violence, lawyers are best.
Do you have like plexiglass in the mediation room, or a spit guard?
Yeah, right. If you try if you try mediation and it doesn't work, then you need to go to court.
Well, let me ask you, can I ask you, are you married?
I am married.
How long have you been married?
35 years.
Round of applause for 35 years.
Now, this is also a big money saver, isn't it?
It is a big money saver, yeah, because you write a blank check to lawyers.
Right.
You know, you are controlling the process with mediation. You're the one deciding how many hours you're going to have, how much time you're going to spend on it, and there's nobody like spending money that you don't know about.
Right.
So
Is there a success rate?
there is. It's about 85 to 90%.
Really?
It's about an 85 to 90% success.
We've got some questions from the audience. What's your name, please?
Armine.
And what is your question?
Well, I would like to know how would you consider going, you know, how bad would it have to be, you know, I guess what I'm trying to ask, you said that if there's fear of physical violence, how bad do you think it is, you know, until you get lawyers involved in it?
Well, if you start with mediation, it's a gentle place to start, and if it doesn't work, you can always do battle. You can always take out the big guns. Right. So, yeah, if someone's beating you up when you walk in the room with them, you're not going to go to mediation.
If someone shows up at your office like this, that's not that. That's got to go.
There you
Right
We
there.
have another question over here? Please. What's your name?
Heather.
Hi, Heather. What's your question?
In my divorce, my attorneys acted as my mediators. What's the difference?
Well, the difference is your attorneys were working out a settlement together, right? The difference is in mediation, you're working it out. The mediator is facilitating that, but it's you guys coming up with it. So 2 lawyers, double pay, sitting in a mediation, you're coming up with what you want. If you don't agree, you can always go to an attorney.
All right, but is mediation legally binding?
Mediation is not legally binding. If you come up with an agreement that is then put in legalese, that is legally binding.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you very much, by the way. Jay, Allison, Barb, thank you all very much. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
The reality is that there is no relationship without conflict. It doesn't exist.
Right.
It can't happen.
There's a chance that we might fall apart before too long. We can work it out.